Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview. This one is for the game Crave. It's from Black Forest Studio. It is a 2-player or team play asymmetrical game where one player is going to play the vampires and one of the hunters trying to kill those vampires.
Yeah, if you've ever played a deck builder, there's going to be a lot that's familiar, but there's also a lot here going on that seems unique and new.
Each player is going to play one of the two sides. We've chosen David to play the vampire, and I am playing the hunters, and what we're trying to do is dwindle each other's health down to 0. Each of us is going to start with 70 health, which is going to be tracked on these two cards, and these things are going to move and manipulate them as you go. Each player is also going to come to the game with a 10-card deck. And you're going to know that you have a starting deck because it has the little crescent moon in the upper right-hand corner. But you also have a side deck of cards that are just yours to pull from the market during your turn.
Yeah, it's one of the unique things about the game. There is a main deck that you're going to be able to pull from that has a display, but each player is also going to have their own deck that has their own specific cards colored appropriately so you know that those are the ones that only you have access to.
There's a wide variety of different types of cards. However, all the cards in my deck pertain to the Hunter faction, and all the ones in your deck are going to be the Vampire faction. However, the middle row, or the main market, has a wide variety of different things. Those typically are going to be your plants, they're going to be your groupies, your werewolves, and then your enchanted creatures. And the cool thing about this is that anybody can use these type of cards, and they all kind of interact with one another. So having a lot of werewolves in your deck is going to give you bonuses through the course of the game.
Yeah, the different card types do a variety of different things, but like Jeremy said, a lot of the specific cards have a lot of unique abilities and powers and keywords that we'll go over in a second.
All right, so to start the game, each of the players is going to take their starting deck, they're going to shuffle them, and place them face down in front of them. The start player is going to draw 4 of those cards, while the second player is going to draw 5 of them. And like any typical deck builder, you're simply going to look at these cards and decide what you wish to do with them. You can lay all these cards face up in front of you so that the other player can see exactly what you're doing. You're going to need that because a lot of these cards are going to have not only abilities on them, but also a wide variety of text on the bottom. They're going to key off of different things. Each card, though, has a basic anatomy when you look at it. The first thing you're going to notice is in the upper right-hand corner, that card could have a cost, meaning that when you buy it from the market, you have to pay that much in influence in order to buy or purchase that card. And when you do, it's going to go into your discard pile. Also, it's going to have the type of faction that that card belongs to. The other thing you're going to notice is it's going to have some kind of attack value, some kind of influence value that it is used to purchase future cards, and then also some of the cards have healing abilities on them as well.
Right, and of course, many of the cards have very unique powers at the bottom, some of which have a couple. And there's a lot of keywords in this game, like we mentioned a second ago, too. Some of those are going to come right into play as soon as you play a card, and some, in fact, even when you acquire it.
One more thing you need to know about the cards. On the bottoms of some of the cards, they're going to be an X symbol. That means you can trash the card anytime in your turn. That's permanently removing that card from the game in order to get some kind of unique ability. And some of the cards are going to have a faction symbol on it, meaning that if you have another type of that faction in your play area, that also is going to key off. All right, so on your turn, you're basically trying to attack the other player and purchase cards from the market. And there's no limit to how many cards you can purchase. But remember, you're always purchasing either from your own personal deck of cards or from the main market. And anytime you buy any one of these cards, they're going to go into your discard pile, and a new card is immediately flipped up and available for you to purchase at the same time. So you can start stringing these along as you go. Also, you're going to look on all of your cards and see the attack value that you're trying to establish in order to attack the other player. Most of the damage in the game is going to go directly to the other player. However, there are patrols in the game, and the patrols come in 2 different varieties. You have sentries and you have
sentinels. Yeah, sentinels are going to be a little tougher than the sentries, but all of them are going to have a little icon here in their card. Now, not all of the cards you're going to collect have this icon, but when you do, when you play these guys, the patrols will stay out in front of you. They're going to give you what they'd naturally give you like any other card when you play them, but they're also going to give that same thing every round until they're defeated. They're effectively a line of defense in front of you. Now, if it's a sentinel, those have to be defeated before you can do any damage to your opponent directly. But the sentries, you can choose. Do you want to take them out? Do you want to go ahead and do damage directly to your opponent? That's a decision you're going to have to make because sentries will often have some benefits. One other side of this game, you're going to be losing hit points or health, but you're also going to want to try to get that back as much as possible. One of the things the vampires can do, for instance, is to drain when they attack. So I might be able to attack and take that number of health back for myself.
And that's one of the unique things about the vampires that only they can do. They can also turn your groupies. Now, there's several different cards in here. The pink cards, these are groupies. They'll go to either side. Whoever recruits them is going to get that unique benefit. However, he has cards in his deck that are going to allow them to turn that and basically use them as a meat shield for the player. And I have also cards in my deck that can turn them back. So there's this tug of war between this neutral faction within the game. One other card I want to mention before we start getting to the keywords is a really unique thing to this game, and these are the poisons. These are plant-based things that you buy, and when you purchase them, sometimes they're going to do direct damage to the player that buys them, but they're always going to go into the opponent's deck. And that's cool because every time this card comes up, it's going to not only clog his deck, but do damage to that player and maybe even interact with some of the cards. There's cards in here like Wolf's Bane that could make one of those wolves that he displays in front of him go back to his discard pile, not even allowing you to use that card.
Yeah, it really makes the idea of clogging up someone's deck a little bit more interesting, because in many games you'll have those cards and it is a bit of a drag to try to have to navigate those cards, but these ones can do some serious damage. There was one point where we were playing, I had 2 cards played out at one time, did 5 damage to me. So you definitely want to look for those cards that let you cull your deck as well.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the keywords and some of the other cards in the game. One of them are items. Items are unique. These have to be on beings, meaning they have to be on one of the characters that you bring into play. Mostly these characters are going to stay out, but only if they have that sentry or sentinel symbol on them. So you probably wouldn't want to put this on him directly unless it's the only character you can do. However, these items can only be used, especially the weapons, if they're attached to a character on that turn. Meaning if it's drawn and you don't have a character, it's not going to be able to be used at all.
Yeah, some of the other random keywords that are pretty cool. Last words. This is one that I have not personally seen in another game. This is on one of my sentinels. Now, this guy's going to do damage round after round, but because he has last words, if he's defeated and when he's defeated, he's going to do one last bit of damage, 3 points in this case, to my opponent.
There's several other types of keywords. One of them is triumph, meaning that the moment they kill a patrol, meaning a sentry or a sentinel, they are going to be able to use that keyword in front of them. There's also the surge ability, which is really cool. Whenever you purchase anybody with a surge ability, that character is immediately going to go into your play area and be able to be used on that particular turn. So the game is all about synergizing your deck. Each of these 2 factions do very, very different asymmetrical powers. In fact, the way that they play is very different. So as a vampire, you want to get a lot of your characters out early to be able to start draining. So every time you do damage, you're gaining that health back. However, with the hunters, you have an ability to really buy a lot of cards. They don't do a whole lot of damage until you buy from the main market and maybe start getting some of those enchanted creatures and some of the werewolves. But they have ability to buy a lot of things. So you're going to be putting a lot of cards in your deck that can sit out in front of you as patrols and kind of block that damage that the vampires are always doing.
Yeah, that is the key difference or the core element between these 2 factions. Jeremy with the hunters typically going to be able to buy more. I'm going to be able to do more damage. However, that doesn't mean you're not going to have turns where you can do the opposite. I had many turns as the vampires where I bought quite a few cards or some high value cards, and I remember some very specific turns where Jeremy did lots of damage to me.
This is a very unique deck builder. Again, remind you it can be played in team play. You will need 2 copies of the game, but you can play 2v2. If you guys have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.